Hi everyone, Lewis here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys my first impressions of Nether. If you've been paying attention to my channel in the past week or so, you might be thinking, Lewis, you've already got a video of this. And yes, you're right, I do indeed. I think the original video which I made, which I'll have a link to in the description if you haven't seen already, people kind of took it the wrong way. For some reason they assumed that the video was a review of the game, which it definitely wasn't. It was simply comparing Nether to a War Z, and unless you're in denial, if you think about all the games in this genre, then Nether is definitely more similar to the War Z. And you got to keep in mind, the servers which I was playing on had around about 10 to 15 people on, so I didn't want to do a real overview of the game until it was fully released. On top of that, people thought that my original video was simply hating on the game. I wouldn't say it was doing that at all. I was positive at various different points. But anyway, I am going to be doing these impressions of the official public game. Because if you didn't know already, you can now buy Nether in an early access beta stage on either the Steam store for $30 or $50 or the PlayNether.com website, again for $30 or $50. I'm happy to report within the week of me making my original video to now in its public release stage, the game has actually changed quite a lot, and I'd say as a whole the game in its current stage, it isn't too bad at all. A lot of the big things I had an issue with, and I'm sure lots of people as well had an issue with, such as the pay-to-win market, being able to buy bandages and all that kind of stuff using real-world currency, that has now been completely removed from the game, and the only thing, as you can see right here, which you can buy from the stores inside the game, are completely cosmetic, which is a really big deal, and that's really the first step to a good game. Developers taking feedback. It's really important at a stage like this that the developers listen to their audience and deliver what they want. Of course, a lot of the time it might just be a vocal minority, but in this case, something which would surely ruin the game in the future, being removed in its early stages before it was even public, it's a really good move, and if the developers continue listening to feedback, then who knows, Nether could be the next big game in the genre. I will of course talk about the gameplay in Nether very soon, but I just feel, first off, it's important to tell you guys the changes from my original video to this one. So another issue which I had was the FPS being really bad. This is again an issue which has been fixed slightly. I'm hoping it should increase even more in the future, but right now while recording I'd say the lowest I ever dipped down to is 21 FPS, which might not sound too good, but considering a week ago I was dipping down to as low as 7 FPS, it is quite a big deal, and hopefully in the future if we do see the game running even better, which I think it has potential to do, then it should make the PvP a really fun experience. Another issue which I had was the global inventory. As far as I can tell, this was originally in the War Z, but never took influence from it. But in the War Z, you're able to stack an unlimited amount of items in all of the different tabs, so you can have literally hundreds upon hundreds of snipers sitting there. As soon as you go into the safe zones, you're able to take them out and put them on your character. And as you can imagine, because the global inventory was infinite, it caused a lot of issues with hoarding. In the War Z, if you're a new player, you're not going to find too much good loot. Compared to an old player, they're going to have a shit ton of really good weapons at their disposal. This is another feature of Nether which has had some tweaks and is now, in my opinion, a lot more balanced. So it's not going to end up like a War Z where you're hoarding everything in existence, just pick everything up, put it in your global inventory to eventually be used one day. Now the global inventory in Nether only has 15 slots, and that might not sound like a big deal, but trust me, it is. It makes it so that reasonably you're going to put around about 5 weapons into your global inventory, stacks of ammo and then some medical supplies on the side, so really you don't have too much room to just stack stuff in there, and instead you're really going to have to conserve your stuff and use it at the right time in the right place. So now that it's confirmed that the game is no longer pay to win, it's not all about hoarding, and the FPS issues have been tweaked slightly, I think it's time to talk about the gameplay and show you guys what the PvP and all that kind of stuff is like. So as expected in this game, and I'd imagine it's going to stay the same forever, people aren't too friendly. I did have a few situations where I ran up to people as a fresh spawn and I tried to talk on the voice chat, which this game does have voice chat, if you guys didn't already, local voice chat just like in DayZ, the War Z. And you're able to talk to people, but every single time I walked up to anyone and said friendly on the voice chat or anything like that, they completely ignored what I said and just ran at me with their weapons or just shot me on sight, even if I was, like I said, a fresh spawn. You can see in this example right here, I stayed well away from a group of 3 people, talked to them on the voice chat, they completely ignored me. I think they eventually said something in Spanish, you can hear right here. And because of my experiences so far, I'd say Nether has a lack of player interaction and a lot of killing on site, but that could of course change in the future. There is some pretty cool events which happen around the map which I'd say encourage working together. You can see this one right here, basically the massive save zone where everyone trades. The Nether's invaded and you have to fix it before everyone can go back in there and access their global inventory, sell stuff and buy stuff, some really important stuff, and it definitely does encourage people to work together. And from what I hear, there is a few of these events around the map, and I think they're a pretty cool feature. And as far as I can see, although my original video essentially stated that this game was for War Z 2.0, I'm not going back on that. A lot of the features are very similar to War Z, but slowly over time, the game seems to be separating itself from that, especially with these recent changes in the past week or so, which I'm really happy to see. Even if this game doesn't end up being something which perhaps you like, and it still is orientated more to the War Z players, and personally I think for War Z, like I said in my original video as well, isn't too bad of a game if you know how to play it. The same with this game, at least you can have some fast city-based environment PvP fun, which is something you won't really get in a game such as DayZ. You can have fast-paced PvP on certain servers in fact, but an environment like this you're not going to of course see on any map. It's probably one of my favourite things about the game. The environment is just really well done. Of course, a lot of the places which you see around the world you can go in. I mentioned this in my previous video as well, but I'd say around about 40% of buildings you can go in, find loot around them, and coming in as a new player, it's completely different to the main game which I play, which is DayZ. So it's just fun exploring the world and seeing what it has to offer, working out all the loot spawns, and learning everything about the Nethers. I didn't realize this when I was recording my original video either. Maybe it was because it wasn't set up properly then. But as far as I can see, there's around about 5 different types of Nethers. They aren't just the simple teleporting ones. You can get ones which sit on rooftops, and they've got an increased range of vision, and they can find players easier, and when they scream, alert the other Nethers to come over. You've got boomer kind of Nethers, which can explode when you hit them, so you have to stay away from them, otherwise they will do a lot of damage to you. Nethers which kind of spit splinters out of their chest. I haven't seen all of them, but I have heard about a lot of them. And as a whole, the Nethers, like I said in my old video, they're pretty cool. I mean, they aren't really too much of a threat once you've got a gun, but you've got to keep in mind, you don't want to just go around guns blazing, shooting every Nether you see, although that is the easy way out, because then players around you will hear the gunshots and come after you. That's the main way I actually found people while playing the game. I heard gunshots, followed them, and lo and behold, they either killed the player or they were killing some Nethers. Something which I haven't mentioned up to this point either is player progression. It was something I mentioned in my previous video as well, although it didn't have too big of an impact. But when you kill Nethers and players, you'll see in the bottom right, you'll get 50 XP, I believe, from every Nether, and about 10 XP from every time you kill players, which is a bit weird in my opinion, but nevertheless, the XP system exists. And then when you press I, go to your character screen, you'll see this screen right here, which you're able to put points into, and they do have impact on your character. Right now, there's no way of seeing what all of these skills do, but I do know that some of them are a bit obvious. For example, the one with a blocking icon, you're able to hold right click with a melee weapon. As you see actually right now, you'll see this guy right here is blocking, and I'm trying to stab him with my knife because I heard him shoot some people. And it's just cool to see that you're able to level up and progress your character to something which of course you won't have when you initially spawn in. Every time you do die, your XP is reset, so when you first spawn you'll have 1 point to put into one of the various skill trees. But other than that, you don't have any real impact on the world permanently, other than having your global inventory that you're able to go back to, get weapons out of it if you want. But still, I'd say it's a pretty cool system, and it's nice to see some player progression past just getting some better gear. What it really needs is tooltips, but I'm sure those should be implemented soon, and once that is up and running, you should be able to easily work out what kind of playstyle you want to do. You could be stealthy, be very quiet, or you could be a bruiser with a melee weapon, be a tanky kind of guy with more HP. There's a lot of different options, and I'd say it's one of the coolest pieces of progression in the game. I'm not going to talk about bugs whatsoever. In this first impression, the launch of the game was a bit bumpy, but it seems like most of those issues have been sorted out. And of course, there's bugs in the game itself. It's no surprise. It's in the beta stages. But to be honest, as a whole, it works. You're able to play on a server with 64 people and play against those guys, compete for better gear, explore the world, although admittedly isn't the biggest ever. It looks really big when you first look at the map at least a week ago because none of the areas were blacked out. But you'll now see when you press M, you've got this map right here, and the only areas which you're able to access are the ones which are a bit lighter, and it is a decent sized world considering how many enterable buildings there is. But I'm guessing, judging by the map in its current stage, there is going to be an expanded world down south. It would be nice to add some environments which aren't the city, as cool as the city is. It kind of reminds me of I Am Legend. It would be cool to see something which wasn't the city, because I'm sure eventually, after playing this game for so long, you just want to go out, play in the countryside, something like that. So the world is expandable, but in its state right now, it is a rather nice world to explore. And to be honest, as a first-time player of this game, I had no idea how I did so good. I killed a lot of people while playing in one life, as you can see from this gameplay so far. Again, various different weapons of VSS, some different shotguns, an SMG, a pistol. There seems to be quite a lot of weapons in the game, along with, of course, all of the different melee weapons you can get as well. The game actually gets really addictive really quickly. The first kill you get, you just want to kill more people and find out what the game has in store for you, really. And continuing your beautiful killing spree. I would say from the 2 hours or so I had this spree while recording, the combat as a whole just feels really weird, and also the player movement. You'll see compared to other FPS games, it's really jagged, and say for example you shoot a weapon, it just kind of jolts up into the air. I'm hoping over time the gameplay for the guns, the melee and the movement should just change. I mean, it is still very early in its stages. I don't know how long the game's been in development, but if you look at the developers past, Phosphor Games are the guys who developed this game. They've got like a 20-man team, a lot of horsepower, I'd say, which is why these updates have been coming out so quickly with the UI changes of all the icons, of the weapons and all that kind of stuff, the map being added, the skill points, and a few other tweaks around the game. But the development studio as a whole, if you don't know their background already, they've made a few games in the past, most of them being mobile games, which might sound kind of fishy, but a lot of those games do have decent Metacritic scores, nothing too mind-blowing. But since they do have a decent-sized team, and they're making this game which just needs tweaks over time, they haven't made any FPS titles in the past, I'd say it's just due to a lack of experience in the genre, and I'd hope that over time, like I said, from a lot of tweaks, once I've got the FOV sorted out, the gunplay sorted out, it should be a lot more fun to play than it currently is. I mean, so far the development team has proven that they listen to a community. If you've ever been on forums, you'll know for a fact that the moderators of the forums are very active there and definitely do listen to feedback. So, I mean, they've got the horsepower with the development studio, and they've also proven that they can listen to feedback, like I've shown you guys at the start of the video, removing the whole pay-to-win aspect of the game. So, I'm not really sure about the future of Nether. Right now, I'd still recommend not buying it, and I say it for a very good reason. Like I said, it is full of bugs which I'm not going to show you guys, because there's no point moaning about something like that when it's in its beta stages. Those will be fixed over time. But the core game is really good. The environments are amazing. Finding the loot around a city, it's an actual reasonable place. It's like military loot in a military van, or medical supplies in the back of an ambulance which has crashed. It's got a lot of promising things about it, and it's nice to see that it is slowly but surely separating itself from the War Z. Of course, a lot of the features they did undoubtedly take from the War Z. Like I said, if you deny that, then you're in denial. Hence, the denying part of it. But yeah, they're definitely separating from that and making Nether a game of its own with events around the world. The Nethers are definitely something you didn't ever find in the War Z, so it's looking pretty good so far. The main problems, in my opinion, are, like I said, the kill-on-sight mentality. I believe there is some things which they can change to the game, which would, of course, encourage players to work together and encourage players to actually use the voice chat. Pretty much no one ever seems to use the voice chat. Like, I've been shooting people a lot in this video, and if I said something like, "Don't shoot me, buddy," I probably wouldn't shoot them. But since they're not saying anything, I assume they've got good weapons, and I continue to kill them anyway. And a lot of the time, they actually turn out to have kitchen knives, which is very sad. But if that is fixed and player interaction is a bigger deal in the game, then I would personally like that. Some people might not like player interaction at all, and then this game is perfect for them already. You know, player interaction isn't a big deal. It'll happen from time to time, but it is not guaranteed. And the other issue which I have with the game, like I mentioned before, is the gunplay. It will, I'm sure, get tweaks over time. Will it ever be really good? I'm not so sure, which is why I recommend you don't buy it right now. I'd say just hold off for a month. If the game gets massive improvements, you might want to look into buying it. But it's just got a lot of these bugs, those two issues which I've just listed right there, which personally I don't like. Maybe as a War Z player you might, but yeah, that's my opinion. If you've got a different one, that's fine. I'm just saying what I believe about the game. I'm not being negative, as people believed I was at my first. review. It wasn't actually a review, it was just me comparing the game to a War Z. You know, it's kind of hard to do a review when it isn't public. But I was actually recording on a 50 slot server. You've probably seen a shit ton of action in this video. And a lot of people have compared it to a 64 slot deathmatch. It kind of is that because there's no player interaction. But still, regardless of that, it could be a really big game, who the hell knows. But right now with the development, I'm pretty happy with all the decisions which have been made. But so far, I'd say this game is a very arcadey kind of take of a genre. Not to say that's a bad thing, it's definitely nice to have a break from more hardcore kind of games like DayZ. By no means is DayZ perfect if you guys think that's what I'm saying. Of course it has its own set of problems, but that's beside the point. But thanks a lot for watching, I appreciate it very much. If I've watched to the end of the video, feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below if you've got any different opinions. I'm not backpedaling from my original views, it is still very similar to War Z, but it's a nice change, to be honest, from DayZ. If you're looking for a game which is kind of like DayZ with faster paced stuff and a few bugs here and there, which will be fixed eventually, then maybe this is a game which you might want to go ahead and look into. I will have a link to the website in the description below if you are interested in purchasing it. But yeah, tell me what you guys think of the game as a whole. I mean, it's the same as War Z. If you die over and over again, it's shit. But if you actually get into action, know what you're doing, play with some friends, it can be a lot of fun. As you can see, there's crazy Spanish people shooting me when I had no weapon. Apparently that's fun for some people, who the hell knew. But thanks a lot for watching. Like I said, if you guys would be interested in more Nether comment, then just leave a comment below and I'll try to play with a friend at some point. Once it is a bit more stable, the FPS has been improved, the bugs have been fixed, all that kind of stuff, which will just happen over time. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time.